The problem that we have is that as long as Trump loses in their eyes, they don't care if America loses as well. So all of their positions are just based on making sure that whatever Trump does, he does not win, even if it's at the expense of the American citizens.
But the man has solved 6 or 7 conflicts this year. I think we ought to give him some latitude to operate.
Which 6 or 7?
I'm sorry, are you not watching the
Which
news?
6 or 7?
Well, we just did Azerbaijan, we did Rwanda, we did Israel, Iran.
Israel, Iran, what? What peace deal did I miss?
Ended the 12-day war.
I mean, so you 6 or 7. I
Are
mean,
you
that's
living on Earth too?
I mean, no, but Azerbaijan, Rwanda, what? What are we talking about?
I mean,
He did catch Scott Jennings on the back foot with that. That's not like Scott Jennings. Usually he'd just be able to reel off solid responses. But Bakari, it doesn't matter what Scott Jennings said, to be honest. He would have had some type of way of undermining it.
I mean, no, I mean, the fact is we still have a country a world that's on fire. And this is the problem with
Casey.
What are you asking me for, Scott?
I'm asking you to come in here and tell people the truth. Donald Trump has created a track record this year of helping settle several conflicts.
So several is different than 6 or 7. So I was letting Bakari.
First of all, I will say this.
We did see, Scott, to your point, after naming something after Donald Trump, we saw Azerbaijan, Armenia sit down. That was a remarkable moment. We also, I would say, the Iran situation was solved with force. But
and it's still not solved. There's still no peace deal. And actually,
in 1867, U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward bought the land of Alaska from Russia for the price of less than 2 cents an acre. Today, a crowd of about 300 people have come here to rally in support of Ukraine ahead of the talks by Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump.
So Americans rallying in support of Ukraine instead of just supporting America, which I think Trump's position in this whole thing is, what good will this do for America? How do we make sure that we protect American interests? How do we make sure that we're not just funding a war for the sake of funding a war? And these people are out there protesting, which will really undermine Trump's negotiating power, because you have Putin flying in, seeing all these protesters. They're not thinking this through. They're just not smart.
Why is it important for you to come here today?
To show solidarity. I think it's horrible having a war criminal and a felon deciding what happens to Ukraine. If Putin wants peace in Ukraine, all he has to do is stop attacking. So you know he's not genuine.
A woman that age, I'm assuming she's an older woman, should not be that naive. She said if Putin wants peace, all he has to do is stop attacking. She does not understand war. She does not understand the dynamics that are at play here. And if Zelensky was in the control or a position of control or power, then he'd be leading the talks. The fact that Trump has to be involved at all means that he's respected by both sides, or at least he has power or some type of leverage over both sides. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be involved. So this, again, these people are very naive. I think they think that they are coming from a position of caring and rationalism, but it just doesn't make any sense what they're saying. And she looks too old to be this naive.
I think it's important to support our allies, the people who stand up against aggression. And I think that, more importantly, civilized nations should not reward military aggression.
How important do you think it is that Ukraine is included in whatever Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to talk about tomorrow?
It's vital. It's Ukraine's country. It's not ours. It's not the United States.
Exactly. So why are we funding the war? Again, another person who looks like, she's a seasoned individual who should understand that if it's Ukraine's land, which it is, and if they want to make sure that it's defended, and if they want to get land back and all of that, then they need to be able to fund their own war. And if America is funding it or other nations are funding it, then they have a say in the outcome. That's not to say that Trump should be able to go over there or negotiate with Putin and then just come up with a deal and Ukraine has to take it. But really, he'll be able to say, look, I did what I could do. You have two different presidents with red lines. Both of them have red lines. Trump can't make either party change their red lines. All he can do, as any kind of mediator would do, is find out what concessions can be made between the two. And I guess that's what he's trying to do. He wants to resolve this. Like, even if it's just out of ego, he wants to resolve this, that he can say that he resolved it. Apparently, Hillary Clinton even said that she would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize if he could resolve it. So he definitely wants to resolve this.
So I think that President Zelensky should be here
the next day.
Watch as Donald Trump claps and celebrates as Vladimir Putin comes down the tarmac. And then watch his greeting towards Putin right here. Who else misses Barack Obama?
I don't. Because how else would you negotiate with someone? What did he expect him to do? Just be mean mugging him? Like, they're about to start a negotiation. You have to start from a position of at least being cordial. I think that what Trump was doing is making sure that he's showing respect. Even if you despise the other person, you're going into a negotiation. Like, I've never been divorced, but I would imagine if you're going into court against your wife and you're getting divorced, you're not going to just go in there with your new girlfriend who looks 10 times better than her and just antagonize the situation. You're going to play it humble. And Trump is doing that. And comparing this to anything that Obama did, I think is unfair anyway, because they just had different political styles.
Putin, will you agree to a ceasefire?
Mr. President, what's your message to Vladimir Putin?
Mr. Putin, did you underestimate Ukraine? President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
Press. Press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, press. Let's go.
Thank you, press.
It's crazy. Like, these people have no sense. These people, I think they just, like I said, want to make sure that Trump loses, even if it means America loses. The coverage of this whole thing has been, I think, really unbalanced, as always. It's been that type of coverage where all they want to do is make sure that they have a sound bite of something negative and a chyron of something negative about Trump.
Okay, to discuss an end to the Ukrainian war, okay, because at this point, President Trump has been trying to bring peace, trying to get some type of ceasefire. However, these negotiations have been tough, right? At first, Vladimir Zelensky, I believe, was the problem. Now I think Putin is more the problem. So President Trump is trying to straighten Putin out. And coming into this meeting, at least optically speaking, you know, to me, it seemed like President Trump was trying to send a message to Putin with clear and obvious power moves as he greeted Putin in the United States of America. Take a look.
What you're about to see is a true power move. So you greet the president of Russia cordially. You have the red carpet, all of that. They would have said or believed that he should have not done that. But what you're about to see is the ultimate power move. I don't see Obama doing this. I wouldn't see Biden doing this. This is a Trump move.
Yeah, so clearly a power move from President Trump to show Putin who's boss going into this meeting, okay? Because if you listen to the mainstream liberal media, they're trying to make it seem like Putin is the one who is the boss of President Trump, that Putin is actually controlling Trump and pulling Trump's strings rather than the other way around, right? Because, again, that is how the media wants to frame our president as he negotiates, right? They actively are trying to undermine him because they are afraid that President Trump will agree to a potential land swap between Ukraine and Russia in exchange for peace.
He knows his version of history, and what I hope at a minimum the president doesn't get committed to some talking about land swaps that he is not authorized to do. It's not his land, it's Ukrainian land, and therefore something more minimal, just like my colleagues were talking about, some baby steps forward I think is the best possible
And
outcome.
Zelensky's not even able to maneuver those land swaps, if I'm understanding that correctly from their constitution.
You are absolutely right. It's a constitutional issue and it's a democracy issue. He just can't agree to that. And therefore, any talk of that somehow locks President Zelensky in for the next meeting would be a really bad outcome. I hope the president doesn't make that mistake.
So Ambassador Dalder, Trump was also asked about what happens in the eventuality that he...
Yeah, this is what the mainstream liberal media is afraid of, right? They're afraid of Ukraine having to do what is going to be inevitable, in my opinion. Okay, they're going to have to give up some land. That's just what it is at this point. That or continue to fight this war that I don't think is going to go well for them in the long run. But hey, liberals, Democrats want to convince us that no, just let Ukraine fight and fight and fight and fight potentially to the end until.
And this is the thing. People forget that these are human lives that we're talking about. Tens of thousands of people have died. People's sons and daughters, people's uncles, people's fathers. It's easy to talk about it from the safety of the US, but when these people are actually dealing with it day to day, it's a completely different thing. And so one of the unique things about Donald Trump, whether you like it or not, he does not view everything through the same political lens that everybody sees things through. And that means he's able to think outside the box. And at a very basic level, he's just saying, I want people to stop dying. Now, yes, it's not his land to give away, but, it's not his land to give away, but he's trying to do something. So the alternative is maybe nothing is done. And as Greg Foreman is saying, the fighting just continues. People just keep dying. And what will be the outcome? So if Russia does end up winning by any chance, then they're going to get the land anyway. And all these people have died. You can't get these people back. So negotiation is very delicate, and both parties have very strong views on what they want and what they don't want. But as with any negotiation, both parties either need to concede something or they'll just keep on disagreeing.
Until Russia, maybe, they just decided, they're just going to go all out on Ukraine. But I don't think President Trump wants that. I don't think any reasonable person wants that. I think most reasonable people want peace before it comes down to that. But unfortunately, in the United States of America, we do not have a reasonable media or Democrat Party because they're, again, trying everything they can to undermine the president and these talks with Vladimir Putin, including trying to frame the president and how he greeted Putin as a sign of weakness, right? Because there was a red carpet and President Trump showed Putin respect, in U.S. territory ahead of this meeting, which, is common sense when you're trying to negotiate, when you're trying to make a deal, right? But again, apparently the media, they don't want a deal, which is why they are raging over President Trump, quote unquote, honoring Putin. Take a look.
Just a note on the red carpet of it all. I mean, I think it's a visual that, our reporters in the region say is just rubbing Ukraine the wrong way to roll out the red carpet for a man who is wanted for war crimes against Ukraine.
As I said, what is the alternative? He just walks on a regular tarmac, which might not have been noticed, but going that extra mile to at least create a space that you can have a meaningful conversation. And ultimately, they're trying to negotiate something. So you want to create the best conditions for that negotiation. So just being petty and not putting the red carpet and maybe using that as a way of softening the conversation is just stupid. And Abby Phillips, really, I struggle with Abby Phillips. And I know, she's doing her job and she's saying, well, our reporters in the region, but it's just so biased and skewed because the idea is to create a frame where Trump is doing the wrong thing as opposed to, well, let's just see how it comes out. Let's, this might make sense. This guy has been negotiating his entire life. I'm just a journalist, and therefore let me just sit this one out.
In what might be a negotiation is something that is not going to be received well there. But I will say that Trump does this as he goes into negotiations, in part to make Putin feel welcomed, to make him feel like they are buddies again. And whether or not he uses that to his strategic advantage, we will find out. But it's one that, if Ukraine is our ally in this conflict, is rubbing our ally the wrong way.
That's the test. I mean, Putin is winning in the early moments of this because he's getting a picture greeted by the President of the United States on U.S. soil after more than 3 years of being a pariah in the world for invading a democracy in Europe. The question is, it'll be judged by the substance. If they get substance, if there's legitimate progress toward a ceasefire or some progress toward ending the war in Ukraine that Ukraine can accept, then that's how the summit will be judged. But he is in a country now. He's on a military base, given basically as red carpet it goes. He's given honors, so to say, come here. This is a get-out-of-jail visit for him. And this is a big, big deal.
And it's extremely important for Putin domestically.
Yeah. Yes.
This will play really big.
Legitimizes
I mean, the
him at
American
home.
president actually applauds. I can hear it. See the articles now. That American president applauds Putin as he arrives.
Okay, and that's a good thing, because then that means whatever deal that he goes back with, it can make his people happier. Do they actually want a situation where the Russian people are also displeased or feel like their president doesn't have some type of credibility on the world stage? Like, what does that accomplish?
And rolls out the red carpet.
Literally applauds. It has been happening, and obviously, I'm sure everybody watching, and you and I, we all hope that a just peace comes out of this and that the killing stops 100%. But the idea of the Russian president being welcomed with a red carpet on American soil, President Trump applauding him, inviting him into the beast, what do you make of all that?
I think a lot of it has to do with location. Trump doesn't do anything. I was in the Roosevelt room with President Trump sitting 2 people away, and I was reminded what someone once told me, that Trump doesn't do anything by accident. The color of the wallpaper, the location of the glasses, where people are sitting. I think he's in Alaska for one reason: energy. Some of the largest oil reserves in the world are there. We got Alaska from Russia. I think ultimately it's not going to come down to firing bullets. It's going to come down to economics. And with Trump unleashing America's energy economics, I think in this world, I think it's going to put us in a lot better place to negotiate. I think he could literally shut Russia down. And I hope that's the direction that he's going in. And I think that's ultimately where he's at. It's no accident they're in Alaska right now.
Interesting. Republican Congressman Tim Burchett of the great state of Tennessee. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, so this is the level of stupidity that is being pushed on the airwaves of CNN, right? Apparently trying to treat the guy that you want to stop killing people, treating him nicely, right? Treating him with some respect, a world leader, okay? Apparently, again, this is something that is freaking out CNN and MSNBC as well, too.
Of course it is, because they don't want to see the win. They want to just see constant news stories about conflict. So as much as they criticized Trump with the Zelensky situation, they loved it. It was great clickbait that they could say, see, he's just so undisciplined and look how he treats people. Even as much as they hate Putin, they would like to be able to say, look, he brought him over here and he ruined the negotiations because he didn't even show the level of respect that would be due of any world leader coming to the US. And I think it's genius. I didn't even think about that whole idea of bringing Putin to Alaska, which Russia used to own, and it has huge oil reserves, and saying, look, this used to be you, now it's ours, and we're going to use this against you because we have energy here. They said that America has more oil than all of the other oil producing nations. So that is a power move. And you wouldn't have gotten this from Obama or Biden. I'm not sure that they would have that level of 4D chess strategy.
What are you thinking of this? What is the prime minister thinking?
You're looking at it with some alarm, you're biting your nails, you're hoping and praying that Trump doesn't do something stupid. that Trump doesn't do something that all of Europe is going to come to regret. I think European leaders, by the way, over the last week have put in a lot of diplomatic effort in trying to speak to Trump. For example, the Finnish president, Alexander Stubb, often speaks to Trump and tries to portray Europe's views to Trump and then takes America's views and puts them to European leaders. So there is some communication and there's some presentation of what Europe wants out of this, the security guarantees they would need, the promises they would need from America to keep helping Ukraine, however this goes. But I think either way, they will watch with bated breath and nervousness.
I don't want to say that having a meeting at the White House and in the Oval Office is somehow less than what's happening here. That's not what I'm implying. But when we were watching, and we've talked about this, our allies go and meet with the president in Washington. They're always going with some sort of gift, some sort of offer, some sort of honor. When Keir Starmer was here in the United States, he came with another offer of a state visit at Buckingham Palace, which was seen as a really big deal. Nobody gets 2 invitations to meet with the crown in the UK. And Donald Trump, I mean, I said this to you, he seemed like nonplussed by it. Oh, you're giving that to me again? Of course you are.
Yeah.
The way...
Well, because he's the boss. Like, he's the boss. And I know that Trump was probably honored to have that invitation, but he's just the boss. And you have to consider too, like the people in the UK, if Trump is in the UK, they're going to be protests and all this foolishness anyway. So he's a boss. So like, even if you are being gifted something, you don't fall over yourself because you are impressed. He'll love it because he loves that type of stuff. He met the Queen and he's running things on the planet right now. So, you know, if Keir Starmer is doing that, much to the dissatisfaction of a lot of the people in the UK, then, you know, Trump's going to take it. He'll make a big deal about it. He'll then talk about it endlessly, that he's met with the crown twice. He met not only with the Queen, but now he's getting the opportunity to meet with the King. Of course he loves it, but like, no matter what he does, they're going to criticize it.
The way that he embraces and lights up when he sees Vladimir Putin are not our ally, who we have a hostile relationship with, is so different. And I think it's so hard to understand.
Wow. It really is.
Wow. This is MSNBC's airways. This is what they're putting out on their airways. Trump lights up when he sees Putin. Really? Is that what we're doing now? Editorializing right now? They're telling their audience what to think, right? Instead of just reporting the damn news. President Trump and Vladimir Putin meet in U.S. territory, right? Historic first meeting, okay, in the United States after X number of years. That's how a normal news outlet would report on this, right? MSNBC, though, CNN, no. Trump lights up seeing Putin. Trump is... Because
they have to have something to say. It all comes down to the fact that they have to have something to say, and therefore, even if they don't have something, like they say, if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. But they have to say something, so they're going to say something bad because that's what they have to do.
Trying to do it. I mean, this guy smacked down Zelensky in the White House for disrespect, right? For being a difficult person to work with. Now, Putin is being difficult, and President Trump is trying to, you know, soften up Putin. Not the other way around. Putin is not softening up Trump. Trump is trying to soften up Putin, right? He's trying to get Putin to play ball. And the way that you do that is not through berating somebody, not through disrespecting them, not through telling them that they're a murderer and that they're evil and that you don't like them. No, the way that you do it is that you be diplomatic, okay? President Trump is showing how to be a statesman, right? That's what he's doing. And apparently the media is mad about that. They're upset, okay? Because who knows? Again, this could lead to peace. And everybody knows that peace is a W for President Trump. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and roll some highlights here from the press conference that President Trump and Vladimir Putin are having. Take a look.
Useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you in good health and to see you alive. I think that is very neighborly. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so.
Ooh, they hate to hear that. They hate to hear Putin say, I mean, there's no way of knowing definitively, but I'm sure they hate to hear that because Trump says that regularly. And a lot of people do believe that if Trump had been president, there would be no war. But I will say it was a blessing in disguise for America for Trump to have lost that other election because he came back ready. He came back with time on his side in the sense that he got to reflect on the things that he did well, the things that he did poorly, which is why this first 6 to 7 months of his new administration has been at breakneck speed. And this is also why he's probably just gutted some of these agencies because he knew that in his first term, a lot of the things that he was trying to do were undermined by people who were leaking things or people who just were determined to make sure that the things didn't work. So, you know, he's got a lot of W's, whether or not people want to give him credit for it. It's still very early in the term, so anything can happen. But I think so far he should be given credit for what he's done, but they just can't do it.
Confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, business-like and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Ratcliffe. Thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. Make a lot of progress.
The meeting took place in this room.
Yeah.
This is where you met, right in this room.
Did. Well, let me examine it. Oh, there it is.
That's where you were sitting.
That's it. I would say that's it. Yep.
So did you have alone time with him?
Yeah, I did. I did actually after our speeches. He made a very good speech, and I also finished it up. And afterwards, we spoke. Right after that, we spoke very sincerely. I think he wants to see it done.
Yeah.
And we hope that it gets done. It's still early doors. Anything can happen. I think the effort has to be applauded. Hopefully the outcome will be that people stop dying, because ultimately that's what we want to do. But that's it for me. I will keep you updated. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. This is a really small channel, so every subscription means a lot to me. I do my best to respond to all of the comments, even the mean ones. As I said, I'm just a guy with a Wi-Fi connection and a camera. I don't get it all right. I react in real time, so sometimes I'll make mistakes. But hey, I'm just trying to give another view on some things that quite often, depending on who you watch, you're only getting one view. So maybe I talk it through and I say a thing that makes you see the thing a different way, and that's what I'm here for. I'm just a regular person who has thoughts and wants to share them with people. Always happy to get your responses, and share this video with anyone who